The message that stuck with me is the fact that my parents kind of reinforced the idea that the true wealth of a person is the books in the home, not the money in the bank. Wow, you kind of amplified the most important pieces from the book. Wow, this is so amazing, Marco. I'm so delighted and so grateful that you made this special piece for me. But tell me, how do you get the book to be outside the bound? Do you cut and move them out?
This was a beautiful challenge because I'm literally taking a book about books and transforming it into an illuminated design. The goal of this was to really showcase Ferose as a friend first, but also as an innovator who's pushing for social impact, as an author, and as a father. And one of the unique features about it is that all the artwork is created by artists on the autism spectrum. I also love that it talks about illuminated manuscripts in here. I discovered recently that illuminated manuscripts were the origin of Western painting. Those European Renaissance masters didn't create their oils on canvas from out of the blue. Just the idea that illuminated manuscripts actually spawned an entire creative generation for artists to take their work not only in books, but then to expand beyond that. I just find that incredibly powerful. I read through the book, and as a friend of yours, as someone who respects you, as a fan of yours, I basically have a certain idea, and then I try to I try to bring out what I see in the book that reflects you.
I think the word that you have left with me, Marco, which has had a profound impact, and I've used that word very often, as Merathi. The word stands for that you leave a bit of yourself in everything that you do.
Correct.
Right? And I think through this piece of art, you've left a bit of yourself in the person you are, the message of diversity, and how inclusion plays a big role for you. I think that's what got us together.
Tell us about your relationship with books and how they've become a part of your life.
During the times we were growing up, this was the 1970s and 80s. India was still had not opened up. So many of the people felt that the only way to a good life was through education. And books was the only means of getting educated. But I think the message that stuck with me is the fact that my parents kind of reinforced the idea that the true wealth of a person is the books in the home, not the money in the bank. It was a very deeply insightful idea which said that your true value is your intellect. It's your capacity to imagine. It's the breadth of understanding of the world. You don't have to travel around the world. You can have very limited means, but travel through your imagination, through the power of books and through the power of words.
Completely agree, and it really kind of speaks to your definition of shelf-aware, but can you tell us what shelf-aware means to you and what really inspired this book?
I remember getting inspired by your idea of upcycling, which I must confess I hadn't heard before. And I'm like, okay, Marco talks about upcycling. Maybe there's an opportunity to upcycle my columns. And that's when I thought, why not bring my literature piece with artists? And so you get art and literature together. But then I also wanted to have a social message. So I reached out to artists who are on the autism spectrum, and I wanted them to do the artwork because I thought they could see the world in a very unique way. Plus, there is a very subtle message in there, and all the proceeds go to these artists to help them in their livelihood. But overall, the process was I had to trust the artist. I wasn't the artist. I had to remember that I'm not the artist. They are the artists. And as long as it kind of fitted into my understanding of what they were trying to do, I didn't want to change anything in the way they presented it, because I think that is what makes it very, very unique. So that's how it came along.
One of the most admirable aspects I feel about you is just your overall support of artists throughout the entire time I've known you, and not just for myself, but for the entire community. And that's why it was so rewarding for me to create specifically an illuminated version of Shelfware. Tell us what it was like when you first saw that book and how it was translated.
I wasn't sure whether you will do that for me, because you're only doing the big names like Dalai and Picasso, and Feroze's book is like, who cares? But I'm so grateful that you took on the challenge, and now you have upcycled my book and has elevated it to a new level. So I'm very grateful for what you've done.
I'm grateful for you. I literally read the entire thing cover to cover and was so inspired and felt so moved by it all, because I as a friend, as a fan, I just feel like you're able to showcase a powerful relationships with books and curiosity, where that can take you, and it can inspire so many young, old, and everywhere in between. It's just like, it's such a beautiful wrapped up version. And then you're supporting artists on the autism spectrum. I feel like you're very selfless in your creative and professional pursuits. It just really comes across that way, and it was just so much fun to create. I'm curious, what stood out to you the most?
One of my core, thoughts that I wanted to convey through the book is to make literature our religion. If there was only one religion in the world that was universal, it is literature. It is the power of books. It is the power of the word. And how can we make the world a better place through literature? That was really my goal of writing the book. You took that piece of art and made it even more exclusive, even more amazing through your own imagination. And what was very interesting is when I saw the piece was the things that mattered to me seems like it mattered to you too, which goes to show that you really deeply understood the contents of the book. The paintings that stood out, the words that stood out. You were only able to do that because you knew me so well, and I think you knew the mission that I was in so centrally, that you were able to bring that out in the book. I know there are book lovers who literally will wear gloves before they open a rare book because they don't want it to be damaged. And if you're taking that book and if you're cutting it, I'm sure there may be a lot of people who may get you may get a very different reaction to it. Art is to each his own, right? My personal take is, in this particular case, at least in my own book's case, you've made it even more unique. But I think more than anything else, what you're doing, I think, is you're creating a separate category itself. And that is what I think will make this piece of art very unique. I believe it's an incredible idea. I hope more and more people understand and appreciate what you're trying to do. And I'm sure it will happen. Art takes its own time. But I think you've created a new kind of, in the book world, we will call it a new genre, but I think in the art world, it's a new category probably.
I'm curious if you could tell us what Illuminated means to you.
This goes way back to maybe the medieval times, when only the wealthy people made books, and these were obviously handmade books, and this was only limited to religious books like the Bible or the Hours and so on, which the richest of the rich people got the artist to literally paint every page of the work. And obviously they were sometimes carved with gold, because at night it would shine and it would stand out. That's why it's called the Illuminated books, because they were often done with gold plated, so it would stand out even in dark times. But later on, what happened was people, these became so exclusive that people started taking off the pages from these books and framing them as art pieces. That's how art actually, in many, that form of art actually was in the previous world illuminated books, which eventually became pieces of art. And I wasn't aware that that's really the genesis of really art in many ways, in the traditional form that we're talking about. So, illumination was one method of being, being able to see those pieces of artwork even in darkness.
Modern art really evolved from those artists, rather than just sticking to the pages, going to other mediums, and how it was really through religious texts and books that it kind of evolved into the whole medium.
So beautiful. I mean, maybe that's the answer to your first question, who are you? I'll say, look at my artwork that Marco has done. It kind of captures my entire 50 years of life on Earth.
I like to say I mirror the spirit of communities through collaborative, creative designs. Like, I like to kind of be a mirror and understand what the subject is objectively, and then try to reflect that back in a new creative way. And so with you, it was kind of a little bit of a cheat sheet because I knew you, I had worked with you, I had hung out with you, I had kind of known a broad range of you.
When you were painting, you used the word meraki, which stands for leaving a bit of yourself in everything that you do. You do that through your artwork, but even if you're not an artist, whatever you do, you can leave a little bit of yourself in the person's heart, in a person's soul. I think that's a powerful word. I've kind of taken from you, and I've shared this in many of my speeches, that if you do something with great love, if you do something with great care, if you do something with great intentionality, I think you will leave a little bit of yourself in that person, and that is timeless. On a regular day, when everything is going good, it may not mean much, but when you need it the most, it elevates you. I think that's what art and literature and all of these things have the ability to do. I think if you don't have art, we would cease to exist. That's what differentiates human beings from everybody else. I think we have a deeper understanding of the nuances through art, through poetry, through literature. I think great artists is sometimes a reflection of our own consciousness. It's a reflection of the society. It's a reflection of what people are thinking collectively. I think art is kind of a reflection of that. So I'm a great believer that art and artists are central to human beings' existence.
How would you define success?
That's a tough question. I think the way I see it is, success is when you are in full alignment with your thinking, your speaking, your being, and your whole living, right? When everything is aligned, is the best state of being yourself. And once you're in that state, I think everything else will kind of magically span out of it. Is really not so much the external metrics that we all aspire for. I think it's much more internal. It's your being, you being fully the best version of yourself, with your thoughts and your actions and your experiences being in full alignment. I think that's the state of, I would say, again, success is not an end goal. I think it's a state of being. It's not an outcome that you aspire for. I think those are those steps towards a state of being that you would be in. I think that's what success would mean to me. And I don't think many of us have got there, but I think it's work in progress. I don't think it's like a final destination. I think it's a place of being.